All right. Welcome to Litscapes, everyone. See, here we are again, right? We're finally getting the ball rolling and producing more and more of these episodes, right? We did a short one, pretty recently. We did a poem by Algernon Charles Swinburne. Remember that was connected to the novel Ex-Wife from our first episode. Well, today we're going to be doing a little bit more poetry. All right, there's a poem in particular that I really want to share with you, and maybe if we have time, I'll read fragments from this other long, epic, very famous poem. But in order to get to that, first I want to mention another poet that you may have heard of. Very famous, uh, very popular, very talented. I must confess that it's not maybe precisely my cup of tea, but I do appreciate their work, and I will try to, read and maybe not read is not the right word, but definitely, like I said, appreciate it. Just take in a little bit of the work every now and then, enjoy it. Um, this poet, you know, well, they're often referenced by just two letters, TS. No, it's not that TS. I know what you're thinking. And it's not T.S. Eliot, English modernist poet famous for The Wasteland and the love song of J. Alfred Prufrock and Hollow Man, many others. No, it's not T.S. Eliot. It's Taylor Swift. Of course, Taylor Swift, right? That TS. Now you're thinking, of course. No, that should have been obvious. TS. Why would you be thinking of T.S. Eliot? No, it's Taylor Swift, that other modern poet, songwriter, artist. Very famous, very talented. There's no denying that. Did you know she's related to Emily Dickinson? Speaking of poets and speaking of talented, famous poets, Emily Dickinson is one of the most important American poets of all time. And I love her work. I'm sure you have at some point heard some lines by her. Probably her most famous one-liners. I would say it's "Hope is the thing with feathers." You've heard it at some point, or I'm sure Taylor Swift, at some point has referenced her. I mean, she had an album. She has a bunch of albums, right? But she has one that came out on a December 10th, Evermore. Evermore was released on December 10th, 2020, which is Emily Dickinson's birthday. She has been quoted, Taylor Swift, in fact, has been quoted as saying, "If my lyrics sound like a letter written by Emily Dickinson's great-grandmother while sewing a lace curtain, that's me writing in the quill genre." It's bizarre, honestly. This is just incredible. This was reported by Ancestry.com. They share a great grandfather, some English immigrant. I don't know. I mean, it's fairly easy, I guess, nowadays to trace your ancestors, right, through these websites, these services. But it does sound just a bit convenient, that Taylor Swift is related to one of her idols and inspirations, Emily Dickinson. and another great American poet. Anyhow, that's not the point. The point is that she recently released another album called Tortured Poets Department. Right. Now that in itself is a very loose allusion to the movie Dead Poet Society, starring Robin Williams. This movie's from the early 90s. Robin Williams, Ethan Hawke. It's the movie that popularized Walt Whitman's poem, "Oh Captain, My Captain," when the kids in the classroom get atop their desks and they're shouting to their teacher, "Oh Captain, my Captain, you who have inspired us to love poetry." And what is poetry good for? It's not for getting famous. No, it's to woo women. That's what they say, at least in the movie. It's a great line. I don't know if that's really ultimately the point of poetry, but it has come in handy, certainly, for many a man, for many women, surely, throughout the ages. But anyhow, the point here is that this album, Tortured Poets Department, features the titular song, Tortured Poets Department, has a couple of references. Actually, all of Taylor Swift is a bunch of references, but there are a bunch of references to Joe Alwyn and Matty Healy and Jake Gyllenhaal and Harry Styles, and there's a bunch of ex-boyfriends, right, in Taylor Swift's body of work. And just digging through these references is tasking. It's demanding, and I don't know. I mean, I'm sure her fans just love digging through that stuff. Me personally, I'm not really. I feel like if I don't know the least bit about Taylor Swift's life, I'm not going to really enjoy her work. It's that dense and it's that loaded with references. I mean, it's like, I was going to compare it to Ulysses, James Joyce, but no, not just yet, at least. I don't know, maybe not ever. I don't know, but it's. I mean, imagine, in a couple of weeks we have, or maybe it's already out by the time this airs, who knows. But we're about to get House of the Dragon, right? HBO's epic series based on George R.R. Martin's fantasy novels. So we're about to get season 2 of House of the Dragon, and imagine watching season 2 of House of the Dragon without watching the first season. You would miss out on a lot, and plenty of it would be meaningless, right? It would make no sense. That's kind of what I feel like with newcomers trying to approach Taylor Swift's music. That's what I feel like. I'm lost, right? And it's like, I mean, who are all these people that she's alluding to, and why is it so personal? No, I mean, I get why it's personal, right? Art, poetry in particular, should be personal, but shouldn't it also feature some universal themes? Have a take, an opinion, a viewpoint on, life and the world and reality and anything that has to do with that? I don't know. But I don't get the, her references to all these past boyfriends and experiences and difficult breakups and, everything that she's gone through, her relationship to her fans, and Travis Kelce. Damn Travis Kelce and the Chiefs, right? Damn them for twice already beating my beloved 49ers in the Super Bowl. Travis Kelce's cool, but damn him. Um, yeah, no, I don't get it. But what I do get is all these literary references that Taylor Swift has, and there's a bunch, right? She does seem very well read, very educated, and she knows her stuff. She definitely knows her stuff. Um, but man, sometimes I feel that some fans just don't appreciate that, right? And I witnessed that firsthand with some of my students. And here I wanna give a shout out to Andrea Palacios, right? I hope you're watching, and thank you for all those Taylor Swift references in your reading journal and in your exams and all the homework. Um, really liked it. Really, really cool, really original. But okay, so I'm talking to some of these students, right? And they're trying to explain to me all these references and who is who in the long list of Taylor Swift exes, right? More exes than Scott Pilgrim. Certainly more harmless, I guess. Or are they more harmless than Scott Pilgrim's exes? I don't know. I mean, they were trying to kill him. But what? But these fans, again, my students who are trying to explain these things to me, they're not getting the other side of the work, right? All these literary references, right? We're going over precisely the Dead Poet, Tortured Poet's Apartment song, right? There's a very specific reference to Dylan Thomas, and I feel like, some of my students, and I'm sure many of our fans, just completely ignore these names because they don't ring a bell, and they go straight to the Matt Healy's and the Tom Hiddlestons and the who's another ex-boyfriend, Lautner, right? This werewolf wannabe from Twilight, was it? Yeah, but who is Dylan Thomas? Who is Patti Smith? Well, Dylan Thomas is precisely what we're going to be sharing, commenting on today. We're going to be reading a poem by Dylan Thomas, this Welsh poet from the mid-20th century, modernist poet, right? You could say he's the second generation of modernist poets after T.S. Eliot, just E. Cummings. And I'm sure you've heard of his work. If you have watched the movie, and I know a lot of you have, the movie Interstellar, right, with Matthew McConaughey, with oh man, I'm completely blanking here. Catwoman, green actress. Oh man, damn, what's her name? Well, Matthew McConaughey, right? Has a great cast. This movie, Interstellar, and it features very predominantly the poem "Do not go gentle into that good night." Do not go gentle into that good night. Old age may burn at ray the close of day. Rage against the dying of the light. Right, and this is Dylan Thomas kind of surmising his philosophy a bit, summarizing his views on life and death, and telling his father on his deathbed, do not go gentle into that good night. I think his dad was going blind, or was blind. And so on his deathbed, Thomas is inspired to write this poem. So you may have heard of that poem. It's probably his most famous one, and made even more famous by this movie, Interstellar. But there is another movie, another sci-fi classic, one of my all-time favorites, with one of my all-time favorite actors, George Clooney, and the movie is called Solaris. Solaris from 2002. uh, directed by Steven Soderbergh. It's a remake of a Russian classic. Who's the director of the original? I don't remember. But the novel is by Stanislav Lem. Yes, Stanislav Lem, Solaris. Good book, but I did enjoy the movie a lot more, especially the American remake with George Clooney. And this movie features another poem by Dylan Thomas, which is called And Death Shall Have No Dominion. And it's what we're going to be reading today. Right? And this comes to us again from Taylor Swift's Tortured Poets Department. She references Dylan Thomas. She says something like, "You're no Dylan Thomas, right? With your typewriter, and I'm no Patti Smith in the Chelsea Hotel." I think I'm getting that right. Let's read the poem. Right? It's a short one, but it's. I chose this poem because it's my favorite from Dylan Thomas. I really like his work. This poem is just so good, and it. Oh man, I also have a bit of a history with this poem. An ex-girlfriend from years and years and years ago. God, this was ages ago. Damn it! Now that I remember, this girlfriend, she kept my movie. I lent her my copy of the DVD of Solaris, and she kept it. Damn it. The poem is worth it, and sharing it is even more worth it. Sharing it with her was worth it, but I'm sure that sharing it with you guys is going to be even better. So let's get to it, right? And Death Shall Have No Dominion by Dylan Thomas. Let's wait once more for that plane to fly by. And death shall have no dominion. Dead men naked shall be one with the man in the wind and the west moon. When their bones are picked clean and the clean bones gone, they shall have stars at elbow and foot. Though they go mad, they shall be sane. Though they sink through the sea, they shall rise again. Though lovers be lost, love shall not, and death shall have no dominion. And death shall have no dominion. Under the windings of the sea, they lying long shall not die windily. Twisting on racks when sinews give way, strapped to a wheel, yet they shall not break. Faith in their hands shall snap in two, and the unicorn evils run them through. Split all ends up, they shan't crack, and death shall have no dominion. And death shall have no dominion. No more may gulls cry at their ears, or waves break loud on the seashores. Where blew a flower, may a flower no more lift its head to the blows of the rain. Though they be mad and dead as nails, heads of the characters hammer through daisies, break in the sun till the sun breaks down, and death shall have no dominion. Oh yeah, that's the poem. And in the movie, George Clooney is trying to flirt with this woman that he's just met at some party, and he's choking up. He's getting nervous, and she just says, "Try poetry." That's all she says to him. You know, she sees how he's at a loss for words, and she's just like, "Try poetry." And he thinks about it, and he says, "And death shall have no dominion." And she says, "It's not a very happy poem." It's not a very happy poem, but it's not a hopeless one like the one we read last time. Remember, last time we read Swinburne's In the Garden of Proserpine, and that was a poem just completely bereft of any hope or joy or even willingness to live life to the fullest. This one's quite the opposite, right? I especially remember, now my favorite line in the poem. Though lovers be lost, love shall not, and death shall have no dominion. This is the exact opposite of this past poem. Whereas Swinburne told us that death was the ultimate end and there was nothing else, and it was just long, eternal silence and darkness after we died. This one says, you know what? Death is not the end. Even though lovers may die, love will live on. Because death is not the end. Death will not be our master. And death, I think, is no parenthesis. Going back to the modernist poets. Great poem. Great. So this is Dylan Thomas. This is who Taylor Swift is referencing in that one song, right? Dylan Thomas. And now you know a little bit more. Welsh poet from the 20th century, modernist, very heavy drinker, died a bit young. I think he didn't even reach 40. But a great poet, and you can tell from what we've just read, right? Very modernist. Now there's no structured flow. There's no meter. There is no rhyme scheme, and yet it's very poetic. The repetition of the dominion, and death shall have no dominion, right, over and over. It's almost like he's giving us this list of arguments and points that he's trying to ultimately make. But he does it in a very convincing, very poetic, and very melodic way. It is very musical, right? Maybe not so much as Taylor Swift, granted. I mean, she writes songs. This guy, Dylan Thomas, is very musical. So that's Dylan Thomas in Taylor Swift, and it's not just that though. I remember this. Some students also mentioned this other song in the anthology section of the album, which I have to admit I have not listened to in full. I know, yeah, shame on me. I'm embarrassed. But there's this other song called The Albatross. Now, when I hear of the albatross, there is this very specific symbol and this very specific poem by this very specific poet that comes to mind. And I feel again like a lot of fans are missing out on it. The albatross? Well, the albatross is just this bird. They may not even know that it's the bird with one of the longest wingspans. Does it have the largest wingspan? It's either the albatross or the condor, the birds with the longest wingspan. No, the albatross is a bird that crosses seas, crosses oceans, right? So they need these huge wings to catch the wind and lift them across the ocean currents. But that's not it. That's not the albatross. The albatross actually comes from a very famous poem, one of the most famous poems in the English language, perhaps, at least definitely of the last 200 some odd years. The Rime of the Ancient Mariner by Samuel Taylor Coleridge. Samuel Taylor Coleridge, one of the founders of British English Romanticism, along with William Wordsworth. He writes this really long poem about this mariner who sets out to sea on a ship, with the crew, and they're going to the South Pole. And they suddenly come across this albatross, who turns out to be a sign, a good omen, because the albatross leads them out of a storm. And then, for some reason, for some just unfathomable never explained reason that Coleridge just throws at us out of the blue. The mariner decides to shoot the albatross with a crossbow. Now, at first, the other shipmates they applauded because the albatross was leading them somewhere gloomy, something like that. And but eventually, the death of the albatross turns into the death of the winds, and the ship is becalmed, and they're completely motionless and adrift on the ocean, and they're dying of thirst, and they decide to take the corpse of the albatross. I don't know how they get the corpse of the albatross. I mean, it must have landed on the ship right after the mariner shot it. But they decide to take the corpse and they hang it from the neck of the mariner. And so the albatross now in pop culture has come to symbolize a burden of guilt. Now, I don't know if that exactly is what Taylor Swift is referencing in her song, but it's, let's take a look at the lyrics right here from, again, the Tortured Poet's Apartment. This is the albatross. We're not going to listen to it, no, we can't, right? Because copyright. But we can read the lyrics. I don't know why. You can easily Google the lyrics, but if you want to hear the song, you have to pay for it. Yeah. Well, I mean, we can read at least some of the lyrics. The opening says, "Wise men once said, wild winds are death to the candle." I mean, there it is. The second line, and already we have this reference to wild winds. The whole poem, the rhyme of the Ancient Mariner, is precisely about the winds. The winds that come and go, and they symbolize hope for the mariners. If there's a wind and they can reach land, and if there is no wind, they're stuck in the middle of the sea. And the albatross kind of plays around with that, right? When the albatross appears, it leads them out of the storm. When the mariner shoots the albatross, the winds die. Wild winds are death to the candle. A rose by any other name is a scandal. Well, Romeo and Juliet, right? Shakespeare. A rose by any other name would still smell as sweet. But is there, let's see, cross your thoughtless heart, only liquor annoys you. Oh, that's a cool line. Only liquor annoys you, you dastardly drunkard, right? You do nothing but drink religiously. I guess annoyance. She's the albatross. She is here to destroy you. Interesting. I'm sure this has something to do with becoming a burden or a source of shame or guilt to someone. Because again, that's what the albatross means. But these fans, right? You Swifties, and I'm not judging, right? Like I said, what I have heard from Taylor Swift, I do like. I will admit that, yeah, I do like Taylor Swift. I don't listen to her work too much. I should, definitely, but come on, you guys. There's her work is full of all these rich references and allusions to literary works. It's not just ex-boyfriends. It's not just traumas and triggers and sad breakups and no. There's a bunch of arts. There's a bunch of poetry. A bunch of great literature embedded in these lines. You just have to know your stuff, right? So that's two: Dylan Thomas and Samuel Taylor Coleridge. Again, I've gone a little bit long with this episode. I do apologize. Half an hour. They're meant for 15 minutes, and I get into it. Excuse me if I enjoy talking about literature and poets, and T.S. Eliot. We should do an episode on T.S. Eliot at some point as well, right? That would be fun. Or Ulysses, James Joyce. Man, we could do a short story on James. I don't know. There's all sorts of things to do on these mini episodes of In Parentheses. But I do hope soon we'll have another Litscapes long episode. We have in the works, we have The Idiot by Elif Batuman coming up. We have Kazuo Ishiguro's Never Let Me Go coming up. We have a very special guest with that one. Who knows, maybe by the time this episode airs, those are out already. But they're in the works as of right now, and I'm excited. I'm excited for the future of the podcast, and we're getting there. Little by little, step by step, shot by shot, line by line, we're getting there. So I'm excited for what the potential this has. I'm excited and I'm very grateful for all your support, for you guys watching still. I know it's been months since the first episode. It's been months since you guys signed up to the channel. But here you are still, and really, really, I appreciate the following and the support. Thank you guys. We'll have more stuff for you soon, okay? For now, that's gonna do it for this episode of Litscapes in Parentheses. Taylor Swift, right? Who would have thought we'd be doing Taylor Swift along with Samuel Taylor Coleridge and Dylan Thomas, two of my favorite poets. All right, guys, thank you all once more. We'll see you soon. Okay, please, and remember, I have to remember every time, right? If you've enjoyed the episode, hit all those buttons. You know the drill, right? Subscribe and share and all that jazz. You know how it works, so please do that. Thank you, and we'll catch you soon, right? So stay lit and keep on reading.